This is kind of my story. I'm a bit of a storyteller. And after a great talk like that, you always feel slightly vulnerable. But I'm a storyteller, and this is my story. But it's also your story. And I know that JP did a great job of saying you have the right to pass. Just so you know, there is opportunities for interaction. Sorry. I mean, you might have to talk to people. But you all look quite friendly, so there we go. Broadly speaking, this is what we're going to be talking about. This is the dance we're going to have. We're going to talk about things like embracing vulnerability. Actually, Pavel was talking about not knowing or getting it wrong. I think I'm going to sort of extend that to not knowing in the first place, maybe a thing. But we can definitely blend this in with what's going on there. And the power of authenticity. The key to the keynote, again, was down to the behaviors, the discovery, how people work together. Trying to cultivate an environment, both here, would be good, and at work for inclusivity. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going. And were any of you here last year? Some really awesome talks, and I think there was a real connection around embracing diversity. So that's kind of the key to this. Excellent. So there's two kind of introductions to me. The one on the right, well, no, hang on. The one on the left is the conventional speaker introduction. My roles. I'm a training consultant. I teach people. I'm a visual thinker, visual storyteller, graphic recorder, like Marcus. It depends how much you pay me. You can call me what you like. But generally speaking, that one's not really important. That's kind of more about roles. This is more about my disposition, the one on the right. If you close your eyes for a minute, if you don't mind just doing this, and you pictured a minion, I believe that minion is called Stuart, and you imagine that minion running around quite frenetically, and he's sort of rolling over. Now imagine two of them sort of rolling over and jumping over each other. Now sort of quadruple that by about 20. Open your eyes. That's my brain. So that's my disclaimer. It's all about assumptions and expectations. That's the expectations you should set for today. I did a talk a few years back, and it all went to pot because the technology didn't work and everything was a bit messy. Most people enjoyed the ride, but one guy kind of came in halfway through, and at the end, I had a coffee, and he said, I didn't enjoy that. I was like, oh, sorry, felt a bit vulnerable. I said, okay, what was it? He said, you're just very fast, very energetic, and because he'd come in halfway through, he didn't connect. So I thought, actually, that's a positive. So that is my disclaimer of what you'll expect. Fast-paced and rapid, but you've got biscuits and mints to take you on your journey. There we go. I wonder whether I should just leave you really curious about that analogy. That's my life in a picture, and it's like being a fish. Shall I just leave it there and just let you just try to figure it out? So there's two reasons for that. So many times, I think we feel like a fish out of water or a small fish in a big pond. I'm assuming, because you're all sat here, that you're all passionate, lifelong learners, and you're kind of here to grow. And I think you'll probably agree that every chapter of your life or moment of truth, you kind of go through a level of vulnerability. You know, one moment I thought I could draw quite well, to a moment where I went to uni and suddenly everyone feels like they can draw better. Every different movement from social care to project management into the world of agility, as we grow and extend, I think we kind of go through what I would describe probably, I think if there were an opposite to illusory superiority and that overestimation of our abilities would probably be imposter syndrome. And that's what makes us human. And I think that's the key thing to this. So lots of moments where I've felt vulnerable, and actually I don't want to sort of spoiler alert this, so I'm going to stop there, but there have been moments in this where I felt like I am not a business analyst, I cannot do this, I'm not a project manager, and at school, even before that happened, I didn't kind of, settle well with that one-dimensional approach to learning. In this environment, in this world, in this community, we're all in favor of things like training from the back of the room and some wonderful ways in which we can unlock learning. And I just wish, I'm sure you're the same, you look back on your childhood and wish you had the same experiences. So moments of vulnerability that I've had that have sort of made me feel less. And I think over time, that less I've now equated to diversity, and that diversity I equate to success. So here we go. Are you ready for this? You've got to talk to people, but you get a break from me. So what I want you to do is share your life's experience, could be at work, could be outside of work, where you felt vulnerable from not knowing. You will have to move closer to someone. You can work in pairs or trios, but you're going to have to do it. And I'll give you about 6 minutes to have a good old chat, so you can go it 2 ways. Away you go. Thank you very much. Do what it says on the screen. Oh, it worked. It worked. Excellent. I was just chatting to David saying, I'd be a terrible scrum master. How long was that? Time management's terrible. But it felt good. The conversations were going. I didn't ask you to debrief, so please only do this, and you have the right to pass. Did anything interesting come of that? Would anyone wish to share? I've got to give you a mic. Do I just give a mic? Is that all right? We'll see how this goes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry already?
Sorry already. I just heard a really wonderful quote, so I want to share it with everyone. Feeling vulnerable in situations, for example, where you are in a room of people who all know, maybe you have a feeling they know more than you do about the same subject, and maybe you feel, oh God, I should know this as well, or I'm not good enough. Or you tend to compare yourselves to the others. So Hafid here said, the only person you should compare yourself to is yourself from yesterday.
Nice.
I love
that.
There's
a little round. I like that. I like that. Thank you. By the way, there's this gentleman who just said that. Please, could you stand up if you don't want? Talk tomorrow about neuroscience. There's a lot of connections here. So if you enjoy this and you like to carry that journey, make sure you go to that. That one more. There was one over there. Thank you. These are awesome.
Hello. We were talking about, I feel very central now, how in our roles, a lot of people think we have the answers and we don't always have the answer. And the fact that all 3 of us felt that, I was like, yes, it's not just me. So, and sharing that vulnerability, I now feel more powerful. So I'm very happy to talk to people in the same position.
I love that, yeah. You setting the space for safety. Thank you. Please keep these conversations going. I'll hopefully come out to you and connect with your debrief in a second. The following slide is my story. I was in 2 minds to share this because in this community, first of all, you're like, who isn't? But if you look at there, last year at the ripe old age of 45, I finally got clinically diagnosed with ADHD. And for people that know me, the simple response was, no shit. But, for me, I'm funny about labels. I mean, I think positively labeling is a good thing. I've worked in social care, working with adults with learning disabilities for many years, and I think labeling is useful with the right intent. My intent to share this is purely to say that this is a really good example of self-awareness. And I think, like many people I know, actually, speaking to quite a few people, I class myself as an anxious extrovert. I was talking to a few people last night, that's my best. So if I get really loud and enthusiastic, it's probably because I'm dying inside. But I feel quite safe at the moment. At the moment, this feels like a psychologically safe space. But yeah, I was the labelled child in primary school, and I didn't feel like I sort of had the right approach to education, as I said at the beginning there. But over time, I've kind of accustomed to my ways of working, the ways that I see things, and the things that I do, which I now perceive as superpowers. So I wouldn't change a thing, and you shouldn't either. One thing that I like is this quote here by Simon Sinek. I heard this in a podcast recently. Taking strengths and weaknesses off the table and change that with attributes and characteristics. It's not what we do, it's who we are. All of you here, it's not whether you're a coach or you're a facilitator or a trainer, it's what you bring to the table. I think that really resonates with me. And kind of Simon Sinek in the same podcast was talking about high performance, and you know your why by the time you're 20, and you know who you are. And he actually came out as having ADHD too, and created some life hacks as well, which is quite interesting. So I guess the point of this is, and I'm quite greedy, because I'm talking about vulnerability, the power of not knowing, being authentic, and I haven't got that long, but there's something nice about not knowing, right? it would be wrong for someone like Pavel to get up there and talk about product discovery without having had 20 years of experience in software development, right? So you need integrity. And hello, Kuber, no one noticed you coming in, it's all right. This is all about being vulnerable, so own it. It's all right. It's good not knowing. And, if you knew everything about Agile, you wouldn't really need to do Agile, really, would you? Because we wouldn't need any levels of uncertainty. So there's something about language that I like and dislike. I think we use these words too freely. But the difference between collaboration versus cooperation is challenging the status quo and is being vulnerable, right? Is being vulnerable. So, again, some nice conversations with some of the speakers last night. I think a lot of the stuff that we're learning and we're passionate about in this space is around psychology. I'm more of an enthusiast than anything else, but I'm sure a few of you have heard of Johari Window, yeah? Probably use it to a certain degree. I think this is so useful for both, and I think it resonates with what you're saying, in that it's how you and yourself, it's how you show up. And if you want there to be a level of sort of safety and set that space, you need to show your blind spot. You need to share your facade and also ask others about, other things that they'd get, things that are your blind spot. Is my over-enthusiasm actually quite passive-aggressive? I don't know. What's my subconscious? My facade is what I've shared with you, that this guy looks incredibly confident, but actually now we know he's like a swan. So I think, whether it be a retrospective or whether it may be whatever type of debrief it is, you need to be open and transparent about who you are and the power of not knowing. So those of you that were here last year, I did a talk that was more about product storytelling. Very, very passionate about visualization, by the way. And for me, visualization and framing is all a way of helping people to generate ideas and solve problems, and looking at the agenda, defog. So turning your heads to another gentleman at the back there, Marcus. He's got a wonderful workshop this afternoon about moving from simplifying things through visualization. So highly recommend that. This framework was a way of kind of navigating the terrain. You'll see that it's got sort of an X and a Y axis here. The normal sort of a look of kind of product development in how we see things, you could maybe align between the gap between strategy and tactics. If you Google and look at the definition of product, of disposition, it's got two definitions. One is your orientation, but one is your personal disposition. And that's why I think that we forget. We always talk about this when it comes to sort of coaching and Scrum Mastery. When it comes to product, we forget the person sometimes. So this was my intent last year of saying that who are we and who is our complementer? So for example, I talked about my journey earlier, and not a spoiler. When I was a business analyst many moons ago, I did not feel, again, that I was the right fit for local authority using Microsoft project plans and doing Prince 2 and everything that probably was like kryptonite to me at the time. And then I kind of felt, this isn't me, I don't fit the mold. And then because we were working with adult social care and children's social care and safeguarding, at that time, that horrific baby pee incident happened in maybe around 2007, and it triggered all local authorities to create a multi-agency safeguarding hub. And at the time, I'd clutched some Post-its, and off I went to map out the different safeguarding processes. So out came the process maps, out came Post-its. I was introduced to Visio process mapping. It's a little bit of a guilty pleasure back in the day. And I was like, shit, if this is what this job's all about, I'm home. Do you know what I mean? That's all right. I fit here. So with whatever the role, see past the role and think about your own personal disposition. And also know your complementer. I'm much happier to be customer journey mapping down the bottom or kind of solution, thinking about strategies or whatever it may be. Maybe implementation is something I'd struggle with. So it's a team sport. It's really good that how I think about these things is kind of aligned to some of the current trends. The Scrum Alliance and the Business Agility Institute got together and created a research paper based on the skills that we need today, and kind of connecting with what Pavel said, human skills are as important, if not more important, than technical skills. And that's exactly what one of his outcomes was at the end there. Technical skills aren't as important. Not to say they're not important, but technical expertise and functional skills are important. But in a world of AI, and with someone telling me I've only got 10 minutes to go, I'm not going down that rabbit warren right now. But you wouldn't like that. We can do that in break. But in a world of AI, with an uncertainty over what we will be doing in the future, being human is what will keep you in this gig. So I think that's important. So these are kind of some of the things that I think are really important around communication, that psychological safety, the visual thinking, all of these elements. And these were pertinent. These were things that people are saying that people need. These are the things that are lacking. Organizations were saying they were lacking in people. Number one was communication. It's shocking, isn't it, really? You'd think that that would be the ultimate thing. So, you know, people lack this stuff. And I think emotional intelligence is what this is about. And this is really at the core of what I want to talk about. The ability to be both self-aware and how you self-regulate, as opposed to your social awareness and your relationship management and having those rich conversations. It sounds so simple. It's only a quadrant, but do people get this right? I think if you nail this, that's key to success. And so at the core of that, it's like a Russian doll here, is the psychological safety, right? How you feel. And it's your responsibility to ensure that you set the conditions for your safety so you can be your authentic self, but it's your responsibility to ensure those around you equally feel safe. I was at Agile24 last year, and I was introduced to Becky Kuzma, and she's new to the space, and she's passionate about science, and she's passionate about Agile, and she sort of blended some of these really interesting things. And she introduced me to the SCARF model, and it's another really superly interesting thing by David Rock, and it is so true. I mean, I've experienced this before I saw this model. The suggestion is that in every interaction you have, looking at another awesome speaker here, Shelby, we were talking about this last night. Every interaction you have can make you leave you feeling threatened or rewarded. The same content can be shared, and you can go away feeling like crap or feeling good. Yeah, and it's so true. I get it all the time. I think I'm more acutely aware of this with virtual working. Sometimes you've had very little airtime with people. You have that one call, and you just go away thinking, shit. You know? So people need to think about how you feel, you know, your general status to that person, the level of certainty you have with whatever that interaction is, the autonomy, the relatedness, the fairness. I'm just brushing over these things. Please look into this. Really fascinating. And it is so true. Introduce it to your line managers. I did. And this is another thing. When you get this right, I'm now sort of moving on to that authenticity. When you get this right and you nail this, this is something I was introduced to again a few years back at a retreat, and it was all around coaching. But the API model talks about the ongoing relationship you have. Are there any coaches here in the room? Yeah? So you may or may not be familiar with this, but it's fascinating. The relationship, the dance you have with the person you are supporting, and it goes through this sort of journey of your past, your presence, and your future. My authority would be, I'm a certified Scrum trainer, you know, or I went to college and I drew art, did illustration, whatever, you know. And those things are important. Integrity is key. That wasn't very nice. I know it's about vulnerability. He just gave me a 30-second sign. Testing me. I'm feeling psychologically safe-ish. So, you know, this stuff's kind of important, the authority. But what's really important and how it lands is your presence, your self-awareness, yeah? That's the important bit. That's the key bit. And together then you can make a real impact. Right, back to you. Share some experiences and some examples of not knowing leading to collaboration and success. Away you go. The conversation should continue, so sorry that I was a bit too generous for the first exercise, let's put it that way. You can carry these conversations. Would anyone like to share? We'll just hear from one person, if you don't mind. Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, we were just talking about that it's not just an opportunity, collaboration is not just an opportunity to share knowledge, but also to create relationships, because you're giving, especially when you're talking to people. I mean, I'm a technical author. I go in and I'm expected to know nothing. So, well, they've got to explain the product to me so I can write it for a user. Yeah. And they are very aware in their heads that they know too much to do this. They are not capable of pitching that. So, in a lot of ways, just thinking that my ignorance basically is like my stock in trade. It makes them, it gives people a platform to talk about what they do and how to present themselves, and they enjoy that. And by responding positively to that as well, you get
the power of not knowing for that interaction. I love it. One more over here, great. And then I've got one final exercise.
Well, super quickly, the power of when you're supposed to be the one who knows things, right? Stepping back and get this knowledge emerge from the room. Most of the time, you're surprised that you thought you knew something, and instead you're learning from them. And that's how I keep on learning. And I add up my knowledge. But that takes, vulnerability, because, you're supposed to know, right? So stepping back from this role and embracing the uncertainty gives you a lot of opportunities.
Love it, love it. Thank you so much. This was taken last night. Talk about being your authentic self. Note the only person wearing shorts. Yeah. So just a quick one, and this is more of a takeaway, really. This is our purpose. I looked at it on the website last night. As a community-focused event, our purpose is to create a conference with soul where people can fully engage and share experiences. So as you go for a coffee, it's time to be vulnerable and it's time to shine. So make sure you think about how you plan to learn, interact, and self-regulate. And of course, the only little salesy thing is I deliver this ACS CF class, which blends all these things. Thank you very much.